first tears I cried about my near fatal car crash was on October 3rd, quite literally 5 months to the date after the accident.
I think it's safe to say that you cannot talk about a car accident, crash, or collision without talking about the actual car. So, welcome back to part two of the night that changed my life forever.
I do not know much about cars in general or cars these days, but I was driving a Nissan Sentra 4-door 2025. I was told by one of my colleagues that the newer cars have got airbags on the front and side. And looking at the picture of the car itself, yeah, the multiple injuries sustained was all on my left side because here in North America, we drive on the left side. I don't know how. As I mentioned in the previous blog, if you haven't seen it, you need to go see part one. I do not have any recollection of the crash itself. I just know that I had woken up from a nap and I was ready for part two of the remainder of the drive, starting in New Jersey, ending in Toronto. We're going to get quite graphic. The car was wrapped around an electrical pole. Now, when I say wrapped, I mean imagine a boomerang quite literally folded on. This is the pole and this is the car. There are some terminologies that you come across that you would literally have no idea what they are, what they mean, what the relevance is until you have to use it. I am a part of the crew of Jaws of Life survivors. The stats on Google say that since the invention of the hydraulic rescue tools in 1961, there have been over 24,000 lives saved worldwide. The job of the hydraulic rescue tools are to expedite immediately. Depending on the condition of the car is dependent on if the Jaws of Life equipment is required or not. Because I know nothing about cars, when I collected the car from the car rental, I drove to my workplace to get a co-worker of mine to check the car. And his question was, what am I checking for? And I said, everything. He lifted the bonnet, turned on the car, and said I was good to go. That was all I needed to trust that this car was going to get me to and from. Fun fact for you. Did you know that there's a difference between a car collision and a car crash? Well, neither did I. A car collision puts somebody at fault, meaning that there's an actual collision between two or more cars. A car accident states that what happened was unforeseeable. Let's use roadkill, for example. You're driving and a deer, a raccoon, a bear runs out in front of you. You're either going to hit the animal or you're going to hit something else to avoid it. That would be the category of a car accident. We cannot talk about this car accident without talking about the pain endured. What? I am telling you, as a human, the amount of pain that we go through on a near daily basis, using women, for example, Mother Nature comes every month and tries to wipe some of us out. Using humans, for example, our wisdom teeth grow and try to take us out. Childbirth tries to take us out. The pain that I was in is nothing that any word in any dictionary, in any language could describe. What I can tell you though is the category of painkillers do what needs to be done. At one point in ICU, I had a PIC line connected to the vein that is closest to your heart to pump these meds through me at a time when I was unable to take them orally. When I was discharged from ICU, I could, thank God, take the medication orally. But my goodness, was I on medication? I was given two oxycodone, three Tylenol threes, two Senecots. I don't even want to remember the list of medication. When I was in ICU, hooked up to my IV, I had my PIC line, I had my chest tube. I was on medication every 2 hours. When I got stepped down to the ward, I was taking this medication every 4 hours. But let me tell you something about your body and pain. It knows like clockwork when that medication starts to wear off. And quite early on, I didn't acknowledge the brain fog that the medication was causing for me. So I woke up really thinking that I had cognitive issues from not being able to remember what day and date or month it was, to now being at a point where I cannot remember what was said to me an hour ago. So I started to use my phone to record conversations that were taking place. So when the kid arrived at the hospital, I'd be able to play it back to him so he would be able to tell me anything or ensure that we weren't missing anything. If there was anybody that was coming to see us, he was kept as abreast as I was able to. Orally taking pills has never been an issue for me, but I've also never taken the amount of pills that I had to take. And rightfully so, the nurses have to watch you take them. It got to a point where I was trying to throw two down at a time just to get the medication stint over and done with. Being that medicated made me not feel the pain, except for the fact that this forearm, especially, less so my upper arm, was on fire constantly. Every round they came with the medication, they would ask me on a pain scale of 0 to 10, where would I say I'm at? And quite quickly, day two, day three, I'm like, okay, I just need to let you know that my hand is always on fire. My arm always hurts. My fingers are always tingling. So let's just eliminate 0 to 4 because it's never going to be that. Let's do it from 5 to 10. And I'm going to tell you, I'm at an 8. And they were always confused, like, you're handling the 8 quite well. And I was like, I don't really know what else I'm supposed to do. You want me to sit here and cry? My brain was telling me that if I cried, I'd be causing more pain to my body. If I cry, my ribs are going to hurt more. If I cry, my neck is going to cause more issues. If I cry, my brain is going to get more fogged. Like, there was a thought process that was happening as to say why I couldn't cry. On top of that, though, most importantly, I just did not feel the need to cry. I'll be so honest with everybody. I woke up confused, but grateful in the same confusion because I knew that I was still here. Numb is such an oxymoron word because you know that you can't feel it, but in order for it to be numb, you can't feel it. I did not know the extent of my injuries. I knew that I could feel everything though. So I could feel my ankles, knees, groin, everything that was injured, I could feel. What I didn't know was how much the medication was masking the amount of pain I should have been in. Quickly after I learned the medication I was on, my friends were telling me how addictive all these medications are, especially fentanyl and oxycodone. I didn't realize that addicts use this stuff to get through whatever it is that they're going through. I had a fear of becoming addicted to these medications. So I quickly made a mental note that I'm going to try to start weaning myself off. And instead of taking it every 4 hours, I'll try to see how long after I can go. Bearing in mind, when they're asking me my pain levels at an 8, and I'm thinking, well, there really isn't that much difference between an 8 and a 10. Was I wrong? There was one night that they knew I didn't want the fentanyl. As soon as I could stop taking the fentanyl, which was about 3 days after I came out of ICU, I stopped taking the fentanyl. They removed the PIC line. I was good to go. Oxycodone, Tylenol 3, I didn't really have much choice because I was in a great amount of pain. And I remember one night I was due my last batch of meds and it was midnight. And the time that I'd taken it before was around 7 o'clock, 6 or 7 o'clock. And when they came, they just saw me laying there with tears just falling from my eyes. What's wrong? What's wrong? And I was like, the pain. Like, why didn't you tell us? You should have pressed your bell. And I was just like, the time. I knew you were coming soon. They're like, still, this is not what needs to be done. And they were adamant they wanted to give me the fentanyl. And I was like, please, no fentanyl. I don't want it. And they brought like 3 nurses in, the head night nurse, my night nurse, and one of my favorite nurses to talk to me and convince me that at this moment in time, my body actually needs the painkillers to be able to repair and restore itself. By me not taking it, I'm doing myself a disservice in my recovery. That was all this stubborn mule needed to hear. I was like, give me the fentanyl. You have no idea how quickly this medication works. I want to tell you that maybe within 2 minutes, the excruciating pain that was making me feel like I couldn't blink or breathe was subsidized tremendously. And I was like, okay, that has to be the last time that I have fentanyl. I don't want to allow myself to get to that point that I physically need it. So I went back to the pain schedule. Every 4 hours, oxycodone, Tylenol 3, Senocot, and its brothers and sisters. Just give me the medication, let me get this over and done with. Oh my days, I just remembered I used to have to take a blood thinner too. I don't even remember what that was called. Ouch. I don't remember what that was called, but that was the only thing that had to be injected in me. 3 times a day, every 6 hours. And the reason why it was painful is because of its job. It's to go into your bloodstream to stop you from clotting, because I wasn't able to move and I was completely bedbound. So you're at a higher risk of blood clot. And this particular medication was liquid form and had to be put in a fatty area. So they chose this little part, which has so much more weight than it did when I was in hospital. And one day somebody said to me, oh, like, I just normally do it in the thigh. I was like, you do? I was like, okay, let's do this. I was starting to get sores from the injections on my stomach. I was like, I don't need any more scars. Like, let's do it in my thigh. I don't think you know what regret is. Immediately as it went into my thigh, immediately my leg was numb. I was like, I don't think this is working. This doesn't feel good. What's happening? They're like, no, it's supposed to do that. I was like, listen, this is a first and last. I never want you to put it in my leg again, because the paranoia came that I know I'm not supposed to feel these things, but the fact that I can feel it, losing the feeling in my leg, I'm good. We'll just go back to me firming it in my stomach, calling it a day, moving on very swiftly. How I started to know that I was making progress within myself was when they changed the pain schedule from every 4 hours to every 6 hours. And now I was like, I must have a grip on this. I must. This is all in Syracuse, by the way. So in my first 26 days in hospital, I went from 2 hours to 4 hours to 6 hours. When I got back, well, can't even say back. When I got to Port Perry in Ontario, they had to start a new pain schedule for me. Thank God, no fentanyl, but it was less oxycodone, which made me feel so happy. I went from 2 to 1. We're making progress. By this point in Port Perry, I was able to do more physio than what I was able to do in Port Perry. The reason why I say that is because the physio that I was doing in Syracuse was quite limited, because my physical capacity was still very limited at that point. In Port Perry, I got an ankle weight that I was able to put on my ankle to strengthen my knees, so that when I was able to start physio for walking, my legs would be in the best position that they were in. And the morning of 16th of June, my nurse came in and was like, okay, today you're going to be on your feet. I don't think that you should skip any of the pain schedule. I think you should just take full throttle before and after, because the last thing you want to do is feel any type of pain. Again, this stubborn mule had no complaints, arguments, pushback at all. And thankfully, it worked. I was able to go through my first physio session, getting up from the wheelchair, being able to stand on my 2 feet and take the first steps that I'd taken since walking to the car on the 3rd of May. There's a lot of things that we can do in this life that make us feel accomplished, but relearning to walk is not a position that anybody thinks they're going to find themselves in. You also don't know what mental state you're going to be in, or physical state, when you actually put your body weight's pressure on your hips, your pelvis, your new bionic femur. I was ready to go. I was so ready to go. I was like, please just get me out of this hospital. I've been here for so long. This is now day 46, and I still have got no sight of when I'm going to be discharged. And when I arrived at Port Perry, I wasn't able to do physiotherapy with the home physio because she was on vacation. I'm like, what are the odds? I had to wait 2 weeks for her to come to be able to do this stand session. I must add, I also wasn't allowed to put any pressure on my feet until the actual 6 week mark, which was the 14th of June, Saturday, the 14th of June. So, Monday, the 16th of June, I meet Annalise, my physiotherapist, who'd been on vacation, and I just knew all I have to do is be strong on my 2 feet. All I have to do is listen to the instructions that she's given me. She is my get out of here card. And so said, so done. It was the most accomplished I felt in years. Considering I've moved country by myself, considering I've, completed my travel challenge of 30 destinations by 30, considering I cut off my hair and started locking my journey, this was the most accomplished I felt in my adult life. I was so thankful that my body didn't fail me. My brain still worked in such a way that it was able to connect mind to muscle and we could do this. The session wasn't as long as I would have liked it to have been, but I also know that this is the first time I'm walking in 6 weeks. Like, taking it slow is important. Which brings me to the biggest lesson I've learned since I became coherent on the 9th of May, right through to now in November. Patience is key. There is nothing that can come out correctly if you rush it. As much as we don't know how much time we have, we should be trying to make the most of the time that we are given. I can't tell you that I wanted to stand on my feet in hospital in Syracuse back in May because I knew by medical instruction I wasn't allowed to. What I kept telling myself is there's a massive difference between allowed to, not allowed to, versus can't. Can't would mean that my brain was not sending the signals to my body to be able to do this movement. Not allowed to is by instruction. Bones need time to heal. Time requires patience. I can't tell you that I was never not frustrated. When this arm was in the cast as big as it was heavy. And when I was doing physio in Syracuse, they kept telling me I had to do exercises with my shoulder because if I get a frozen shoulder, that will be something else to deal with. Who needed anything else to deal with on the shopping list of injuries? Not me. Not today, not yesterday, and certainly not tomorrow. Patience is something that I don't think us as adults have the time to put into place. We live in a world of instant gratification. We live in a world of need to have right now. But can you think of something that you've patiently waited for that has just come to the greatest fruition just because you were patient? That's how I feel about being able to walk now. I'm still using my walking cane. This is about 3 months I've been using it now. And when I was first taking my steps, I was already going too fast by accident. None of us remember how we learned to walk, when we learned to walk. Only our parents know that and can tell us. And, quickly parents talk about they went from taking 2 steps to now running around the whole house. And the saying, walk before you can run, is so true because the only way I could stop myself from never losing balance was to make sure that I was walking. I was told to take steps like I was walking down the aisle. I mean, maybe she meant the plain aisle, but I went straight to the church aisle and I was supposed to do 1 foot, the next foot, 1 foot, the next foot, 1 foot, the next foot. And I was like, this feels so slow. I feel like I'm not getting anywhere. And I didn't say that, but it was like she heard me because she was like, does it feel good? I'm like, yeah. And then I looked in the mirror and I could see the distance between the wheelchair to where I was. She says, okay, we're going to go backwards. And I was like, backwards? I had a belt around me, so she was holding me steady. And like I said, I weighed nothing in hospital. I still weigh nothing now, but I for sure weighed nothing in hospital. I'm taking these steps backwards now and going 1, 2, 3. And she was like, okay, you're at the wheelchair now. Can you feel it? And I could, but I didn't feel safe enough. I asked her, can I go back a bit more? And she said, yeah, you need to feel it. So in the back of my knees, the wheelchair was supposed to be here. She was like, okay, you can sit now. And I took a seat and I was just like, it's crazy. Do you know what I just remembered? This feeling was when I swam the length of the pool with no noodle and no instructor and no nose plug just before the accident happened. So I take that back. I do feel accomplished. I do feel proud of myself. I do feel like I can do anything. The kids of today are calling it delulu, but is it? Is it that crazy to have that much faith in yourself that you could fly if you wanted to? You could build a house with no education on construction, cement building, anything. Is it that crazy? Is it that crazy that I went through my entire hospital experience, 48 days in hospital, 3 months of ongoing recovery? Is it crazy that I didn't shed a tear about what happened until October when I flew to Mexico for my 35th birthday? I am one of the only people that I personally know that celebrates their half birthday. Mine is April 6th, if you were wondering. 6 months from April is October. So my actual birthday is October 6th. My half birthday is April 6th. I've never not thought that my life is going to end at some point because I'm not doing anything that could lead me to that. Life is precious, it's delicate, it can be taken away from you like that. I'm a testament to that. So being able to fly to Mexico for my 35th birthday, that on the 3rd of May, I nearly wasn't supposed to make it out of this near fatal car crash, meant everything to me. The first tears I cried about my near fatal car crash was on October 3rd, quite literally 5 months to the date after the accident. My last post on Instagram before the accident was on April 6th, celebrating my half birthday, thanking God for allowing me to get to 6 months of my chapter 34 and praying that the next 6 months are going to be one to talk about. Little did I know I'd be talking about it in this way, but we stay positive. I don't even remember what my thought process was. I was in an all-inclusive hotel in Mexico, a few shots of tequila, bionic body, almost a recipe for disaster. But even in that cry or after that cry, it didn't feel like there was a weight lifted because I wasn't holding it. I was not waiting for the right time to cry. I'll be so honest with you. Like I said, crying was the last thing I thought about doing because I just thought about how much more stress it would put on my body. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to focus on what is ahead of me, what is to come, what's next, what does my future look like? These are questions that I still haven't been able to provide an answer to myself to because I just know I wasn't thinking about what if. I was thinking about what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? Many people know part of my life story. I'd like to share that with you. My mum is a 3rd-degree burn survivor. Half of her body set alight when she was 9 years of age. She spent just over 2 years in hospital. But if you see her, you would never think that she had to experience that amongst everything else that she's had to experience in her life, and she's 60 plus at the moment. My late sister, who is my first cousin, but we grew up in our house together as siblings, lost her battle to cancer in May of 2019. Up until the last week when her body was quite literally shutting down, she was paralyzed from the waist down for over a year. I use these two women, pivotal role models in my direct life, as motivation for every single day I was in hospital. I was not going to get rid of this smile. I was going to look back at anything that was pertaining to this particular time, and I would know that I did it with a smile on my face. I would know that if I was in any pain, nobody would be able to detect it because of this smile on my face. I don't want you to think that because I'm not sat here crying, that I'm not sad about what happened. I'm not upset about what happened. I'm not wishing that it didn't happen. But as I said previously, I don't dwell on things anymore. Life is too precious to worry about the things that you can't control. And I know that it's easier said than done. I'm no life coach, but I know that happiness is the key to success. I preach daily that happiness is a choice, which is the complete opposite to having mental health issues. Those are not choices. I didn't want this experience to take the joy that I've just spent the last 6 years trying to find, trying to gain, trying to share, trying to encourage. I didn't want to lose it. My light was dim when my late sister transitioned. It was dim. And even though I can look back at that period of life and see a smile, you can see the pain in my eyes. You can't see the pain in my eyes now because there isn't any. I'm going to leave you with this. Life is short, and in the short time, it's precious. Please value what you're doing for you. At the end of the day, be happy with what choices you have chosen to make. As long as they don't hurt anybody, they're not detrimental to anything. Stay true to yourself.